As the word spread about having a TEDx event at our school, I was in the midst of studying for the rigorous IB exams. At the time, I was watching many online seminars and listening to podcasts, only TEDx, of course, about motivation. If I remember correctly, I had titled my speech, Motivation, Drive. Now, if that hasn't given it away yet, the speech is no longer the same. Fundamentally similar, but my focal point has shifted to something that I believe is significantly more valuable. After drafting my proposal, the world as we knew it changed. International peace went under threat as unrest grew between the USA and Iran. Australian wildfires put thousands upon thousands at risk, showing the true colors of climate change. The truth about inequalities present in this day and age were highlighted by the killing of George Floyd, and now a global pandemic has changed the way in which we knew how to go about our lives. Frankly, this is not the time to speak about motivation. It's a time in which we have to step back and relearn one of the most fundamental principles of our happiness and mental well-being: gratitude and positive psychology. A mindset that we so often take for granted and a feeling we so easily forget, but it can do so much more for us than we care to think, in terms of our happiness, but also our motivation. What I want to demonstrate is what we've bounded our minds to, the things that we focus on and the things we ignore, almost like tunnel vision. The goal of my speech is to suggest that we can shift these mental boundaries and gain more perspective, especially such that we start to notice all the things that are really going well. Because even in times of unrest, being grateful for something can outweigh the negative thoughts. We must merely change our perspective. If something happens, we cannot change the past, but we can change our view on it. So if we see destruction and we can be grateful for the efforts made to rebuild the destroyed, then we've made a massive step in the right direction. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't mourn or be sad, but we should also not let those feelings be the only thing steering us in our lives. It's important to recognize the things that are going well to the same extent, even if that can be difficult at times. But this feeling doesn't have to be bounded to ourselves. If we could be grateful for each other, value each other, then we wouldn't have to protest the inequalities that are such a burden to many even today. If we could show appreciation to all, no matter who they are or where they're from, then everyone would feel valued and, more importantly, would probably reciprocate the respect. So what is the harm in seeing the better in someone? Would it not be a lot less destructive and so much more beneficial to appreciate each other in such a way? Would it not be so much more progressive? Now let me go on a tangent to a key question that we'll hear at some point during every stage of our lives. What is the meaning of life? Now, let me just make clear, I'm most certainly not standing up here suggesting I know the answer to the aforementioned question. Now, that would be a little ambitious for a kid that just finished high school. I do, however, have my views. I believe that the meaning of life is to be happy and spread positivity. Furthermore, that gratitude is a key factor to this, and that everyone, not just in this room, but on this planet, is capable of finding something which they're grateful for. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't be sad or we should ignore our negative thoughts, but between those times I know that it's possible for each and every one of us to find a way to see the good. This could be interpreted as the essence of yin and yang. There cannot be light without darkness, but also don't forget to see the light. A simple thought experiment can help us be more thankful, grateful, and ultimately more happy. American psychologist Dr. Martin Seligman states that we should write down or think of 3 things that have gone well for us today and reflect on why they went well. He states, and I quote, "This exercise works because it shifts our focus from the things that may be wrong in life to the things that we might take for granted. And by focusing on the things that are going well, we can break down depression and increase our happiness, ultimately suggesting that once we can identify the things we're truly grateful for, we can become happier. So let me make a start. Today, I'm grateful for being able to share my ideas with this amazing audience. I'm grateful for being able to see and speak to my friends, those that are here, but also those who have already left for uni. And lastly, I'm grateful for being able to take part in this event as one of the last things I do in the school in which I grew up in. But I'm also grateful for my shirt not having a surprise stain as I took it out the closet, and I'm grateful for my speech running fairly smoothly. My point being is that we don't always have to be grateful for something that is hugely significant. More often than not, it's the small things that go well for us that we merely take for granted. I believe we shouldn't. I believe we should recognize these things such that they can improve our mood and overall happiness, even if it's just for a moment. So please think of 3 things that have gone well for you today. By doing further research on the matter, I came across an article by Amy Morin on a website called Psychology Today. She states that these are 7 proven psychological benefits that gratitude has on our everyday lives. Now, at this point, I'd like to share a personal anecdote on the matter. A couple years back, my mother went to visit Namibia to help and teach children in a rural tribe that our school was supporting at the time. When she came back, she shared many stories with me and showed me pictures of the people and children that she'd worked with. We have to recognize that these are people who have a fraction of the possessions that everyone in this room has today, exemplified by the fact that they made footballs out of plastic bags and these cool cars out of wires and Coke cans. But the most memorable thing that I was shown was the expression on the people's faces. Almost all of them were smiling from ear to ear. Even though they were, and to this day, are experiencing a severe drought, making food and water a shortage, they were happy, and by all means were making the most out of their situation. I believe that there's a great lesson in their lifestyles, because even though they may worry about what they will eat or drink next, in comparison to our most significant problem often being the speed of our Wi-Fi, many of their smiles are brighter than ours. They choose to see the good, something I strongly suggest everybody tries out. But how is all this interrelated with self-improvement or success? Well, first of all, true success can only really be defined by ourselves. What is it that you want or you need to achieve in order to fulfill yourself? What is your life goal? Make success about yourself. I have tried to embody this way of thinking throughout the past year. As an IB student, I set achievable goals, but ultimately I believed in working as hard as I could and making the most out of my situation after. What happened? I surpassed my goals significantly. Because I embodied the way of thinking that I've presented to you just now, I focused on the things that were going well. The reality is that by focusing on the things that go well for us, in my case it was a successful cross-country season or maybe a good grade or feedback in school, we severely boost our motivation. Because we recognize the hard work we've done. It's not a matter of settling for mediocrity, but much rather appreciating the hard work and efforts that we've done to do these performances. I myself had many of these motivational boosts throughout my GIST or athletic sports high school career. As a striker in football, it was always key for me to remain confident and ice cold in front of goal, something that I'd often struggled with. But with every goal that I scored, I became more and more confident, such that I eventually became my team's top goal scorer and one of the highest scoring players in the league. I have to add that I was a different person in the year before, and there were times where I did not believe in myself or my academia. But by changing my views, keeping my head down and focusing on the things that were going well and how I was approaching those things, I managed to achieve far greater than I'd ever imagined. Don't necessarily see a mistake or failure as a negative. It should become something to work on. Through positive psychology, we can improve on our mistakes or even overturn adversities. Paralympians, for example, such as Trisha Zorn, are those who demonstrate this positive psychology ever so greatly. Top-class athletes who can no longer compete due to accidents, illness, or disease must be devastated. But to come back and perform as a Paralympic athlete shows immense willpower and a true focus on what really makes them happy, a magnificent example of positive psychology. The ability to recognize progress in a positive way can change our views entirely in academics, sports, career, or anything for that matter. By changing our views, we can motivate ourselves greatly, develop new strengths, passions, and what this motivation does is give us the drive in order to achieve whatever we want to. All this can be done, and I testify that by shifting our views or our focal point, we can achieve all our goals and, more importantly, find a way to be happy. Thank you for your attention.